In this week's episode, we take on the world-famous Marinette County Waterfall Challenge, where we attempt to visit 15 scenic waterfalls scattered throughout the county in one day. Will we make it to all 15 before the sun goes down? Stay tuned! Hey sightseers, Sightseeing Sally here and
Marty.
Today we're changing things up a bit. We thought we'd take you around so you could see all the wonderful fall colors that are popping here and take you on a special waterfalling tour up here in the Northwoods.
Let's go check it out.
Most, if not all, the waterfalls we'll be showing you today are part of Marinette County's park system. But before we do anything, we have to pay our $5 vehicle fee for the day. For those of you who aren't aware, the Marinette County Parks Department charges day use fees for vehicles entering their parks. If you fail to purchase this vehicle permit or properly display it, you could be subject to a $10 violation. Hence, the park pass. If you're somebody like me who frequents Marinette County parks, you may want to consider investing in their seasonal pass. For only $25, you can visit as many of the parks as you want throughout the entire season. For our first stop, we head over to Veterans Memorial Park, where you can view a series of cascades along the Thunder River. Less than 15 miles west of Crivets, the park was originally developed by the American Legion, along with a few other civic organizations. Now part of the Marinette County Park system, it is here you will find 3 waterfalls: Veterans Falls, 3-Foot Falls, and Lower Veterans Falls. Recently updated with an easy walking trail that leads to a wooden viewing area, this park is a local favorite amongst those who enjoy outdoor activities. One of the reasons why I like taking this particular waterfall tour is because part of it, you get to travel on a rustic road, one of Wisconsin's various rustic roads.
Translation: rough, narrow roads.
One of the reasons why I like traveling the rustic road, you never know what you're gonna find. Well, the fall colors are really starting to pop out, aren't they? Because of the beautiful fall foliage that can be seen in Marinette County, many people prefer to experience the Waterfalls tour in late September and early October. However, don't let the time of year deter you. The scenery here is breathtaking no matter when you go. We're now up over at McClintock Park, one that has some interesting lore associated with it. By the way, if these waterfalls are starting to look familiar to some of you more seasoned sightseers, that's because I have done videos at most, if not all of them, over the lifespan of the Sightseeing Sally channel. I will put together a playlist for you in case you want to binge watch those episodes. Getting back to McClintock Park, it is part of the Strong Falls Trail system that connects up with Goodman Park, which is just up the road and our next stop. Named after Eleanor McClintock, the park lands were purchased from her in 1936. Often referred to as the Bridge Park, there are 4 wooden bridges here that span a series of rapids along the upper Peshtigo River. Considered to be one-of-a-kind park found only here in Wisconsin, McClintock Park is a hidden gem of Marinette County. Oh wow, look at that. We've got all kinds of colors starting to pop here, come alive. We've got some yellows and some oranges and some burnt reds and maybe some a little bit lighter greens coupled with the dark green of the evergreens, and then of course you've got the rapids down below. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the park does have some interesting lore or legends associated with it. One of them being that the forests surrounding the park are inhabited by none other than Bigfoot. You know, that ever-elusive, adorable, fuzzy creature that everybody's so afraid of. And then besides being home to Bigfoot, supposedly this park is haunted. According to what I found online, people reported to have seen orbs and experienced otherworldly happenings. Whether any of that's true or not, I don't know, but it certainly makes for good stories around the campfire this time of year. One of the reasons McClintock Park is subject to such tales is that hidden within the woods you can find a pair of rustic cabins. A source of mystery, online research suggests that they may have been available to rent at one time and were likely built by the Dunbar CCC boys. Well, we'll go on in and see what's inside. Oh, look. One of them old-fashioned fireplaces. Oh, it looks like you got two of them, one on each end. If I'm not mistaken, you could probably rent one of these cabins for the day. I don't think they allow you to rent them for overnight purposes, but wouldn't it be cool to be able to spend the night in here one time and just you have your fire roaring in the fireplace and roasting marshmallows and having your hot cocoa and just kicking back, listening to the sound of the rapids lull you to sleep. Another reason McClintock Park is believed to be haunted is that during the 70s, a young couple lost their lives at the hands of a mysterious stranger in the park's campground area. Unsolved for 4 decades, it is only in recent times that the perpetrator was brought to justice.
Feels kind of dark and creepy in here.
And Marty doesn't know the story associated with the park. Should we tell him?
What, it's haunted?
Among other things. It's also Bigfoot territory.
Oh boy.
Given that there are still more than 10 waterfalls or so to be seen on this tour, rather than waste precious daylight discussing the existence of Bigfoot, we decide to make tracks to our next destination, which happens to be only a few short miles down the road. Next up, Strong Falls here in Goodman Park. But before we go any further, I have a couple of quick shout-outs to give. Special thanks goes out to Robert from Missouri and David from Arizona for tipping our trip jar. And then special thanks goes out to Paul T.W. for becoming our latest patron and to Steve and Lynn for increasing their patronage amount here on Patreon. And then, last but not least, I wanted to give a special shout out to all of you viewers who regularly tune in and watch the entire length of our videos. Thanks to all of you, we're able to get out and film all these awesome places, both here in Wisconsin and across America. Now let's go check out that waterfall. One of the more easily accessible falls of this tour, Strong Falls, just like McClintock Rapids, is located on the Peshtigo River. If you think the falls look spectacular now, you should see them in winter, early springtime. They're pretty amazing. And it even may be my favorite time of year to go waterfalling. Don't quote me on that. By the way, for those of you who may come out here in the future, I just want to point out that this is one of the falls where you cannot get in the water. Due to the hidden hazards, for safety reasons, park patrons aren't permitted in the falls. Named after Robert B. Goodman, a prominent local area lumberman and conservationist, Goodman Park, where Strong Falls is located, was developed by the CC Boys of Dunbar. Here they built a large log shelter, a smaller shelter, the caretaker's cabin, garage, and a workshop. Additionally, they landscaped and added the necessary facilities for a park. Over here you can see just how beautiful and vibrant the maple leaves are starting to turn. We got some very fiery reds on that maple behind me. And then you got the oranges and the yellows that are coming through on the other trees. If you're one of those people whose favorite time of year to explore the Northwoods is fall, now would be the time to start making your plans, as you don't want to miss out on this year's peak fall colors. One other thing I want to point out before we move on from Goodman Park is that there is a trail here that leads to a beaver pond. From what I was told some years ago by one of the park employees, I guess you can see beaver houses there on the pond, and it's pretty amazing. Unfortunately, I have yet to make that hike, and we don't have enough time to get there today, but I want to mention it in case there are those of you out there who love to hike. That's one place you'll want to check out here in Goodman Park, is the hiking trail to the beaver pond. Finished in this section of Marinette County, we head north along County Road I, also known as Parkway, the now very rustic road, until we reach Highway 8. There we take a right. Southeast of Dunbar, you'll find our next stop. Out of all the waterfalls on this tour, this next one is the quickest one. Basically a 10-second stop. Okay, maybe not exactly 10 seconds, because you do have to get out of your car and then walk down the road a little ways. But we're coming up on what is known as Carney Rapids, which is part of the Marinette County forest system. And believe it or not, this is my first time checking it out. Up until today, I have never seen this one before. Oh wow, it's even better than I thought it would be. Well, that's cool. Now that we've got that one under our belt, let's go see what's next on our list. 4-Foot Falls. This one is also a new adventure for us, as we've never been to 4-Foot Falls before. As you can see, this one is pretty remote, pretty much out in the middle of nowhere. This one has a nice set of stairs though to get down, which is very helpful. Some of them aren't quite as developed, and as a result, you may want to consider wearing, hiking shoes, something with a lug type sole, something that's grippy, because over in Veterans Park, for example, where you have the rocks, those get quite slippery, especially if there's any kind of moisture, from dew or rain. And there's the falls. One of several waterfalls along the Pike River, 4-Foot Falls is described by some as a small, peculiar waterfall section of the river. I have to say, some of these places are true hidden gems. They remind me of something you'd find in what's that movie?
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's it. Lord of the Rings. Tongue twister. Anyways, just really beautiful out here, and we're going to hurry up and move on to the next one, because if we don't, we're going to lose out on daylight here real quick. For those of you looking to do a shorter waterfalls tour, consider the Hidden Falls Loop. It includes Carney Rapids and 4-Foot Falls, along with several other falls, including the ones you'll find at our next two stops. Given the rustic nature of some of these parks that we're at, some of you might be wondering what kind of facilities there are. I'll pop up a list here on the screen so you can see which of the county parks actually have some sort of restroom area. But don't expect anything too extravagant. We are in the Northwoods, At least there were no creepy guys hanging out down below. And really, for those of you who are interested in knowing more about the Marinette County parks, if you could head over to my Facebook page, SightseeingSally, I'll be sure to post some information on them as well. Okay, we're gonna head up real quietly because I am pretty sure I just saw a bobcat running along the trail up ahead. Seriously, if that is indeed what I saw, that would be the first time I've ever seen a bobcat in the wild. Darn it, I think I scared him off. He was just way too quick for me to get the camera out And unfortunately I missed it because I was chatting back there. Darn it. Would have been YouTube gold to get that baby on camera. By the way, 18-Foot Falls is one of those locations where you want to make sure you're wearing your good hiking shoes, as this is one of those places where they have not done anything to improve the trails. The largest of the footfalls in Marinette County, 18-Foot Falls is often overlooked in favor of the more accessible falls along the Pike River. With a slope of about 18 feet, the waterfall cascades between an outcropping of rocks, where it drops down into a pool of water. Though some claim the name is misleading because the drop appears less than 18 feet, the falls is still beautiful to see and worth the hike. We did an entire video on this one. Rather than waste any more time standing around looking at the falls or looking for that bobcat, we're going to move on. That way we don't miss out on the rest of the falls we wanted to show you. A quick drive down a dirt road brings us to our next stop. We're now over at 12-Foot Falls Park. This one's a 2-for-1 deal because you can also see 8-Foot Falls here. And this vantage point is going to give us the best view of 12-Foot Falls. You can take a walking path that'll bring you up to the top of the falls, but given our time constraints, we're going to skip that. Just know that it is a really cool walk. There's a lot of scenery to be seen, especially this time of year. You know, I thought it would be really fun to be able to try and do the tour all in one day, but in reality, I highly recommend, if you're interested in doing the waterfall tour, to kind of break it up and do it a little bit more slow. You know, do it over a course of a weekend maybe, or a few days during the week. Because each park really has its own unique offerings, its own unique features, and I think by rushing through it and trying to accomplish this mission of getting to see all the waterfalls on the waterfall tour in one day, you miss out on so much. Not to mention, there is something to be said about spending time out in nature, you know, just really taking in your surroundings, having that Zen moment to yourself that really does a whole lot of good for your soul. Anyways, just food for thought. Take it with a grain of salt. Nobody says you have to do what I do. Oh wow. With the sunlight pouring through, the leaves look like they're on fire. And I hate to say it, but the camera is not doing it justice by any means. Another lovely Pike River offering, 8-Foot Falls tumbles over a rocky ridge into a deep reflecting pond surrounded by maples, pines, and other trees. Ah, the beauty of 8-Foot Falls, sightseers. Out of all the waterfalls, this one happens to be one of my personal favorites. Named by the river drivers who moved timber logged in the area, 8-Foot Falls and its sister 12-Foot Falls are in the center of the county's largest forest plantation. They do allow swimming here, and if you come out in summer, you'll find the place usually hopping, especially on weekends, with people looking to cool off from the heat. With the sun now hanging low in the sky and still more waterfalls to see, it's time to move on. We're nearing the end of our waterfall tour. This is the third to last stop, called Smeads Falls. And as you can see, this one has 250 yards of rugged trail and a dangerous overlook. Since daylight is rapidly fading, we're gonna hurry up and basically run, well, okay, not run, walk very fast, the 250 yards, so you can see Smeads Falls in all its glory. Another sign, warning of the steep trail ahead, and if you listen closely, you can hear the sound of the waterfall in the distance. I don't know if you can tell from this angle, but the drop off here is quite steep. And frankly, quite dangerous. We'll see if we can make our way down closer to the falls so you can get a better view of them. One of the more difficult waterfalls to view, Smeads Falls is located upstream from Longslide Falls on the north branch of the Pemmican River. Because it cascades through a narrow gorge with sheer drop-offs and no guardrails, you'll want to be extra careful when exploring this waterfall. Given the nature of the falls and the sheer drop-offs of the cliffs that are here, this is one stop where you want to make sure you pay close attention to your surroundings, and if you have small kids, to ensure they stay close to you. You probably can't tell, but the ledge I'm standing on is basically only as wide as my feet. Boy, they weren't kidding when they said this trail was rugged and steep. Whew, I'm glad I made it out of there alive. Some of that was a little too hairy-carry for my own comfort. You're probably glad you didn't go on that one. The trail is pretty sketchy.
Pretty muddy?
Not muddy, but very rocky and steep drop-offs.
Yep, I'm glad.
For our second to last stop, we explore Longslide Falls. Now, for those of you who have never been here, Longslide Falls, they had, I would say within the last 5 years or so, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit less, the Marinette County Park System had come out and redone some of the trails, making it a lot easier to access the falls, especially if you're somebody maybe who has a little bit harder getting around. For instance, where there once was a narrow path is now a wide walkway. Again, if you're interested in seeing a whole video dedicated to the falls itself, you can check out the one that is in the playlist that I'll have for you. And then before we move on, I just want to point out all the fall colors that are popping here. You can see some really deep reds and oranges coming alive here on the trees. This is another one of my personal favorites, and probably out of all the waterfalls we toured today, the most impressive. At least in terms of being able to see it full length, you know, from the bottom, looking up at it cascading down. Longslide Falls gets its name from the 50-foot or so cascade through the unique rock formations on the north branch of the Pemmican River. Regarded as one of the best falls in the state, visitors can easily hike to the bottom of this impressive falls, where the sights won't disappoint, no matter what time of year it is. Pretty awesome, huh? Now that we got that done, let's see if we can get over to our final destination before the sun sets. One waterfall in Marinette County we didn't get to today is Horseshoe Falls. As its name suggests, this waterfall is shaped much like a horseshoe. A true hidden gem, Horseshoe Falls is tucked away in the Marinette County forest a few miles south of 8-Foot Falls. And for our final destination, we're at Dave's Falls. It appears we've gotten here just in the nick of time because the sun is just above the horizon. According to legend, this section of the Pike River was once part of the river trail that the loggers used when floating timber to their final destination. Originally named Pemmican Falls, the name was changed in memory of one of the loggers who lost his life at the site while trying to guide timber in 1881. Here you have your choice of doing either the main trail or the lower trail, and since we are almost out of daylight, we're going to skip the lower trail in favor of the main trail. By the way, for those of you wondering what these stands are here, this is basically for where you can come, get yourself a selfie, and then post it on Instagram or Facebook with the hashtag Explore Marinette County, and I believe they may feature your photo. Wow, look at that view, and we made it just in the nick of time as the sun is getting ready to set. I didn't think we were going to make it, did you? For those of you who don't have much time or prefer to take a shorter tour, Marinette County has created 4 different mini tours, allowing you to explore selected waterfalls within a category. For example, there is the Enchanted Trails Tour, where you can explore all the falls along the scenic rustic road that we drove at the beginning of our tour. Otherwise, you can create your own tour based off what you saw today. Being that there are multiple waterfalls here, I highly recommend that if you have only, say, an afternoon to do waterfalling, that you include Dave's Falls on the list of places to stop. Given that Dave's Falls is so easy to find, the amenities available in the park, and the fact that you can see 2 waterfalls here makes Dave's Falls the perfect place for beginners to get their feet wet in the world of chasing waterfalls. And there you have it, sightseers. We made it to all the waterfalls on the list, with the exception of Horseshoe Falls, in a matter of 7.5 hours. Until next time, this is Sightseeing Sally.